2 days after the preliminary round, June and Nera learned they had made it to the finals. Only 5 teams remained in the competition. "We did it," June said, reading the announcement on his tablet. "We're going to the finals." Nera smiled, but her smile quickly faded. She looked tired, and her skin seemed paler than usual. "Are you okay?" June asked. "I'm fine," Nera said, "just a little tired." The next morning, though, Nera didn't get out of bed. Her skin had turned an ashy gray-blue color, and she was shivering despite the warm room. "Nara." June touched her shoulder gently. "You're sick." "I'm fine," she said weakly. "We need to work on our project for the finals." But when she tried to stand, she fell back onto the bed. "I'm calling the medical center," Jun said, reaching for his phone. The university had a special medical team for alien students. They arrived quickly, 2 human doctors and an Eloni medical specialist. After examining Nara, the Eloni doctor looked worried. "She has contracted a neural virus," he explained to June. "It affects the nervous system of Eloni." "Is it serious?" June asked. "Yes," the doctor said. "But strange. This virus shouldn't exist on Earth. It must have mutated from something in your environment." "Can you cure it?" June asked. The doctor shook his head. "We don't have the right medicine here. We've sent a message to Elanus Prime, but it will take at least a week for the medicine to arrive." "A week?" June looked at Nera, who had fallen into a fitful sleep. "The finals are in 3 days." "I'm sorry," the doctor said. "She won't be able to compete. The virus will make her too weak." After the medical team left, Jun sat beside Nera's bed, thinking hard. They had worked so long on their project. It seemed unfair that she would miss the finals. Suddenly, Jun had an idea. He remembered something from his biology class. Earth viruses and alien viruses were different, but they worked in similar ways. He called Dr. Min, his biology professor. "Dr. Min, I need your help." Jun explained the situation. "Mom," Dr. Min said, "it's possible that Earth antiviral techniques might work on an alien virus, but it would be risky." "Can we try?" Jun asked. "My friend is very sick." "Come to my lab," Dr. Min said. "Bring a sample of her blood if you can." The Eloni doctor had left a small medical kit to monitor Nera. June carefully took a blood sample and hurried to Dr. Min's lab. For the next 2 days, June barely slept. He worked with Dr. Min, studying the alien virus and testing different Earth medicines on it. Most didn't work, but a few showed promise. "The virus has some similarities to Earth viruses," Dr. Min explained, "but it attacks neural pathways that humans don't have." On the second night, they had a breakthrough. A combination of 3 Earth medicines slowed the virus in the lab tests. "It might work," Dr. Min said cautiously, "but I can't guarantee it. This is completely experimental." "Let me try it," a weak voice said from the doorway. June turned to see Nera standing there, leaning against the wall for support. She had somehow followed him to the lab. "Nara, you should be resting," June said, rushing to help her. "I heard what you're doing," she said. "Using Earth medicine to fight an Eloni virus. It's exactly the kind of creative thinking our project is about." Dr. Min explained the risks, but Nera insisted on trying the treatment. "If it works," she said, "it will prove our theory about combining different scientific approaches." They gave her the treatment that evening. By morning, her color had improved slightly. "I feel a little better," she said, sitting up in bed. "Not cured, but stronger." By the day of the finals, Nera was well enough to attend, though still weak. As they set up their booth, she looked at June with new respect. "You know," she said, "our project was about theoretical physics, but you just proved our theory in a very practical way." "What do you mean?" June asked. "You took an Earth approach to an alien problem," Nara explained. "You didn't follow the rules because you didn't know them. And it worked." June hadn't thought of it that way. "You're right," he said. That's exactly what our project is about, combining different ways of thinking to solve problems. Let's add this to our presentation, Nara suggested. The virus, the treatment, it's the perfect real-world example. They quickly revised their presentation. When the judges arrived, Jum and Nara told them not just about their quantum theory, but also about the virus and the experimental treatment. This is why different species need to work together, Nara concluded. Alone, we are limited by our own ways of thinking. Together, we can do the impossible. The judges looked impressed. One of them, an elderly human woman, nodded and smiled. Sometimes, she said, the best science happens by accident. 1 week after Nara's arrival, Dr. Kim stood in front of the physics class with a serious expression. Today, she announced, I have a special challenge for you all. This is a problem that has not been solved yet. She displayed a complex equation on the large screen. This will be your semester project. The first team to make progress on this problem will earn special recognition from the university. The class murmured with excitement. June looked at the equation with interest. It had to do with quantum field interactions, something he had been reading about. What do you think? He asked Nara as they copied the problem. It's very difficult, Nara said, her voice low. We have a similar unsolved problem on my planet. Our best scientists have worked on it for decades. June felt a thrill of challenge. Then let's be the ones to solve it. That evening, they turned their dorm room into a study space. June put up a large board where they could write equations. Nara used her advanced tablet to run simulations. The standard approach would be to use the Wechsler method, Nara explained, writing a complex formula. June frowned. I'm not familiar with that. It's not taught on Earth yet, Nara said. It was developed about 100 years ago on my planet. June watched as Nara worked through the problem using the alien method. After 2 hours, she sighed in frustration. It's not working, she said. The Wechsler method should work, but something is wrong. June studied the equation on the board. What if we tried a different approach? What do you mean? Nara asked. Well, June said slowly, what if we don't think of particles as points, but as waves of possibility? Nara tilted her head. That's not the standard approach. I know, but sometimes a new perspective helps, June said. He began to write a different equation on the board. That doesn't follow logically from the premises, Nara pointed out. True, June admitted. It's more of a feeling I have about how the particles might behave. A feeling. Nara seemed confused. Science isn't based on feelings. Sometimes human science is, June explained. Many of our biggest breakthroughs came from intuitive leaps, not just logical steps. Nara looked doubtful, but watched as June worked through his approach. After an hour, he had filled the board with calculations. This doesn't make sense, Nara said. Your steps don't follow the established methods. But look at the result, June said, pointing to his final equation. We're getting closer to an answer. Nara checked his work against her simulations. You're right, she said, sounding surprised. But how did you know to try this approach? June shrugged. I didn't know. I guessed. You guessed. Nara seemed shocked. And it worked. Not completely, June said, but it got us further than the standard method. They worked late into the night. June kept making what Nara called irrational intuitive leaps, and Nara provided the rigorous mathematical framework to test his ideas. By morning, they had made significant progress on the problem. It wasn't solved yet, but they had found a new approach. We should show Dr. Kim, June said, yawning after their all-night work session. Nara nodded, looking at their work with new respect. This is why humans were invited to join the Confederation. What do you mean? Your thinking is unpredictable, Nara explained. You make connections that no logical species would make. You try things that seem irrational. And that's good, June asked. Very good, Nara said. The Galactic Confederation has thousands of brilliant scientists, but they all think in similar patterns. They follow the rules. But humans, we break rules. June finished with a smile. Exactly, Nora said. You see what could be, not just what is. That's rare and valuable. When they showed their work to Dr. Kim later that day, her eyes widened. This is remarkable progress, she said. How did you approach the problem? It was June's idea, Nara said before June could speak. He used an intuitive method that we don't have on my planet. Dr. Kim smiled. Sometimes the best science happens when different perspectives meet. She looked at both of them. Keep working together. I think you might actually solve this. As they left Dr. Kim's office, June noticed that Nara was looking at him differently. What? He asked. I'm starting to understand why my people were so excited to find yours, she said. You're unpredictable in the best possible way. News of June and Nara's victory spread quickly across Earth and throughout the Galactic Confederation. Their project, combining human intuition with alien logic, became famous. Scientists from many planets wanted to learn more about their approach. 1 month after the competition, Jun sat in their dorm room reading messages on his tablet. I can't believe it, he said. 3 different alien universities want to publish our paper. Nara smiled. And the Aeloni Science Academy has officially recognized your treatment for the neural virus. They're calling it the Kim Park method after you and Dr. Min. That's amazing, Jun said. But I still can't believe the biggest news. The biggest news had arrived that morning. Jun had been invited to study on Aelonis Prime for 1 year. He would be the first human ever to attend the famous Aeloni Science Academy. Are you nervous about going to my planet? Nora asked. Very, Jun admitted. What if I freeze like you did when you came here? Don't worry, Nara laughed. Our rooms are kept much warmer than Earth rooms. You might find it too hot, actually. Jun's family had been surprised but supportive when he told them about the invitation. His mother had asked many questions about what he would eat and where he would live. His father had simply said, I'm proud of you, son. Dr. Kim had been the most excited. This is a historic opportunity, she had told him. You will represent not just our university, but all of humanity. Now, as the end of the semester approached, Jun and Nara prepared for their next steps. Nara would return to Aelonis Prime soon, and Jun would follow a month later after completing some special training. Before I leave, Nara said, would you like to meet my family? They're visiting Earth next week. I'd be honored, Jun said. Where will we meet them? They want to see snow, Nara explained. It doesn't exist on our planet. My parents booked a trip to a mountain resort. The following weekend, Jun traveled with Nara to a snowy mountain area. It was early winter, and fresh snow covered everything in white. Nara's parents, tall Aeloni with kind faces, greeted Jun warmly. Thank you for helping our daughter, Nara's father said, bowing in the human style he had clearly practiced. And for advancing science, her mother added with a smile. They spent the day talking about Jun's upcoming trip to their planet. Nara's parents explained Aeloni customs and helped Jun practice some basic words in their language. As evening approached, Nara suggested they go outside to watch the sunset over the snowy landscape. The temperature had dropped, and the air was crisp and cold. It's beautiful, Nara's mother said, looking at the snow-covered trees. But very cold, her father added, shivering slightly. How do humans live in such temperatures? We adapt, Jun explained. We wear warm clothes, build heated homes, and learn to enjoy winter activities. Nara walked a few steps ahead, bending down to touch the snow with her bare hand. Jun was about to warn her about the cold when it happened. Nara straightened up, took 2 steps toward the beautiful view, and completely froze in place. Her skin began to turn dark blue from her fingers up her arms. Nara's parents gasped in concern, but Jun noticed something strange. Just before freezing, Nara had glanced back at him with a small smile. She did that on purpose, Jun said, suddenly understanding. She's playing a joke on us. Nera's parents looked confused, then relieved as Jun explained. The first time I met Nera, she froze just like this in my room. Now she's showing you how we met. They waited a few minutes, and sure enough, Nera's color began to return to normal. She unfroze, turning around with a big smile. "Got you," she said, laughing. "That wasn't funny," her mother scolded, but she was smiling too. "Actually, it was perfect," Jun said. "It shows how far we've come. What was once a scary emergency is now a joke we can laugh about." As they walked back to the warm lodge, Jun thought about his upcoming journey. A year ago, he had never met an alien. Now he was going to live on another planet. He would probably make mistakes, face challenges, and sometimes feel lost, just as Nera had on Earth. But that was the point. Different species learning from each other, growing together, combining their strengths. This was how humanity would find its place among the stars. "Ready for your big adventure?" Nera asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. "Definitely," Jun replied. "As long as I don't freeze when I get there." "If you do," Nera said with a smile, "I'll know exactly what to do." The day of the finals arrived, and the main hall of the university was packed with people. Students, professors, and visitors from many planets came to watch the competition. News cameras floated around the room, recording everything. Jun felt nervous as he and Nera set up their booth. "There are so many people," he whispered. "Focus on our work, not the crowd," Nera said. She was still a bit weak from the virus, but her determination was strong. Across the hall, Jun could see Zeke and his partner setting up their booth. Their display was impressive, with floating holograms and shining metal devices. "Our main competition," Nera said, following Jun's gaze. "Talon scientists are known for perfect technical work." The 5 finalist teams were given 2 hours to prepare. Then the judges would visit each booth for a 15-minute presentation. The teams would present in random order, and Jun and Nera were scheduled to go last. They watched as the first 3 teams presented their projects. All were impressive, showing advanced science that made Jun feel like he was watching magic. The judges asked tough questions, and some teams struggled to answer. Zeke's team went forth. Their presentation was flawless. They showed a new method for controlling quantum particles that made the judges nod in appreciation. Their devices worked perfectly, and they answered all questions with confidence. "They're very good," Jun admitted as Zeke finished. "Yes," Nora agreed. "But their approach is traditional. They improved existing methods but didn't create anything truly new." Finally, it was Jun and Nera's turn. As they prepared to start, something went wrong. The lights in their section of the hall suddenly went out. "What happened?" Jun asked, looking around in confusion. A university technician rushed over. "There's a power failure in this section," he said. "We're working on it, but it might take 30 minutes to fix." "We don't have 30 minutes, Nera said. "Our presentation slot is now." The head judge, a tall human woman with gray hair, approached their booth. "We can reschedule your presentation," she offered. Jun looked at their setup. All their visual displays were dead. Their demonstration devices wouldn't work without power. Then he looked at Nera, who seemed disappointed after all their hard work. "No," Jun said suddenly. "We don't need to reschedule. We can present without power." "How?" Nara asked, surprised. "We'll explain our theory using just words. The power failure actually helps prove our point about adapting to unexpected problems." Nera nodded slowly, understanding his idea. The judges gathered around their dark booth as Jun began to speak. Without slides or demonstrations, he had to explain their complex theory using only his words and simple hand gestures. "Our project is about combining different ways of thinking," Jun explained passionately. "Just as we must now communicate without technology, different species must learn to share ideas across the barriers that separate us. He described how their approach broke traditional rules of quantum physics by adding human intuition to alien logic. As he spoke, Nera translated his creative explanations into precise scientific terms that the alien judges could understand. And we proved this works in real life. Jim continued, telling the story of Nera's illness and the Earth-based treatment. By combining approaches that seemed incompatible, we solved a problem that neither of our species could solve alone. When they finished, the hall was completely silent. Even without visual aids or working devices, they had captured everyone's attention. Then the head judge smiled. "Impressive," she said. "You've demonstrated your theory not just with science, but with how you presented it." An hour later, all presentations were complete, and the judges left to make their decision. June and Nera waited nervously with the other teams. "Do you think we have a chance?" June asked. "I don't know," Nera admitted. "Zeke's team had perfect technology and data, but we had the power failure," June said with a laugh. "That has to count for something." After what seemed like forever, the judges returned. The head judge stepped to the center of the hall. "All teams showed excellent work," she announced. "But science is not just about perfect results. It's about new ideas that change how we think." She paused, looking around the room. "The winners of this year's interplanetary science competition are June and Nera from Earth University." The hall erupted in cheers. June stood in shock as Nera grabbed his arm in excitement. "We won?" he asked, not believing it. "We won," she confirmed, her blue skin bright with happiness. As they walked to the stage to receive their award, June noticed Zeke watching them. The Talon alien didn't look angry as June expected. Instead, he looked thoughtful, as if seeing humans in a new light. June stared at the email on his phone for the 5th time that morning. His hands were shaking slightly. "Congratulations. You have been selected to room with our first Galactic Confederation exchange student." He sat on his bed in the empty dorm room, trying to calm his racing heart. At 19, Jun had grown up in a world where aliens had gone from science fiction to breaking news. 6 years ago, humanity had finally developed warp technology, and the Galactic Confederation had reached out. But actually meeting an alien, that was different. "What if they hate me?" Jun muttered to himself. "What if I say something wrong and start an interstellar war?" His phone buzzed with a message from the housing office. "Your new roommate will arrive in 30 minutes." Jun jumped up and looked around the room in panic. It was clean enough, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a small shared living area. He had put his things only on the left side, leaving the right side empty for his new roommate. "Okay, I can do this," he said, trying to sound confident. He brushed his dark hair back and straightened his favorite blue hoodie. As a physics major, Jun had always dreamed of learning about alien science. Now he would be living with someone who grew up with it. 25 minutes later, Jun heard footsteps in the hallway. He stood up quickly as a knock came at the door. When he opened it, Jun was surprised. The alien standing there looked almost human. She was about his height with light blue skin and slightly larger eyes than a human. Her hair was silver white and cut short. She wore what looked like a regular Earth University sweatshirt and jeans. "Hello," she said in perfect Korean. "I am Nera. I believe we are to be roommates." Jun bowed slightly, remembering the cultural briefing all students had received. "I'm Jun. It's nice to meet you. Please, come in." Nera smiled and picked up her single bag. Jun stepped back to let her enter the room. And that's when it happened. As soon as Nera crossed the threshold into the room, she stopped moving. Completely. Her body went rigid, her eyes wide open, her foot still lifted mid-step. She didn't fall over. She just froze. "Nara," Jun asked, waving his hand in front of her face. "Are you okay?" No response. Not even a blink. "Nara." He tried again, louder this time. "Can you hear me?" Nothing. She stood perfectly still, like a statue, her expression frozen in a slight smile. June felt panic rising in his chest. Had he already broken his alien roommate? Was this some kind of alien stroke? Should he call the emergency number they'd been given for the exchange program? He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and was about to dial when he noticed something strange. Nara's skin was changing color, turning from light blue to a deeper, almost purplish blue, starting from her exposed hands and face. "Oh no, that can't be good," June whispered. He tried to remember anything from the briefing about the Eloni species. They were supposed to be one of the most human-like aliens in the Confederation. Nothing had mentioned spontaneous freezing or color changes. June took a deep breath. As a physics student, he knew to approach this logically. What had changed when Nara entered the room? Temperature? Light? Air pressure? The housing office had said the room was prepared for an Eloni visitor, but what if they missed something? He looked back at Nara, still frozen in place, her skin now a deep blue. Fear gripped him. What if she was dying right in front of him? What kind of first impression was this for humanity? "I'll figure this out," he promised her motionless form. "Just don't get any worse, please." June grabbed his tablet and searched frantically for Eloni biology. He had just a few minutes to learn enough about alien physiology to save his new roommate before his first day with an alien classmate became his last. June pressed the start button, holding his breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, their makeshift device began to work. The results appeared on the screen, exactly as they had planned. The judges looked impressed. One of them, an elderly alien with 6 eyes, nodded slowly. "Unexpected approach," he said. "Very human." After the judges left, Nara turned to June with wide eyes. "That was amazing. How did you know it would work?" "I didn't," June admitted. "But sometimes you have to try the impossible." June's fingers moved quickly over his tablet as he searched through the new alien database. His frozen roommate hadn't moved at all in the 5 minutes since she had entered the room. Come on," he muttered, scrolling through information about the Eloni species. Then he saw it, a small note in the biology section. "Warning: Eloni body temperature regulation is highly sensitive. Sudden exposure to temperatures below 26 degrees Celsius may trigger protective hibernation." June looked up at the room's temperature display, 21 degrees Celsius. "That's it," he said, jumping up. "You're too cold." He rushed to the room's temperature control panel and turned it up to 28 degrees Celsius. Then he grabbed his spare blanket and carefully wrapped it around Nara's still form. Her skin was cool to the touch, much cooler than a human's would be. Please work," June said as the room began to warm up. After 10 long minutes, June noticed Nara's fingertips starting to return to their lighter blue color. 5 more minutes passed, and her eyes blinked. "What happened?" Nara asked, her voice slow and confused as she gradually unfroze. She looked down at the blanket wrapped around her, and then at June's worried face. "You froze when you came into the room," June explained. "I think it was too cold for you." Nara's eyes widened in understanding. Then she covered her face with her hands. "Oh no, how embarrassing. They warned us about temperature differences on Earth, but I didn't think it would be this bad." She carefully moved to sit on the empty bed, her movements still a bit stiff. "On my planet, the average temperature is much warmer. Our bodies shut down to protect ourselves when we get too cold." "Like hibernation?" June asked. "Yes, exactly," Nara said. "But it usually doesn't happen so suddenly. The room must be much colder than what I'm used to." June smiled, relieved that she was okay. "I'm just glad I figured it out. The housing office said they prepared the room for you. They probably adjusted the room for Talon comfort, not Eloni," Nara said with a small laugh. "We look similar, but our biology is very different. It happens a lot in the Confederation." "So, do all aliens freeze like that?" June asked curiously. "No, each species reacts differently to environmental stress. Some change colors, some shed skin, Some released defensive smells. Nora smiled at his expression. I'm lucky I just freeze. It's not dangerous if I warm up within a day or so. June nodded, fascinated. I'll keep the room warmer from now on. Thank you, Nora said. This is why they warned us that first contact situations can be challenging. She stood up, moving more naturally now, and extended her hand in what she had clearly learned was a human greeting. Let's start over. I'm Nora, third-year astrophysics student from Aelonis Prime. June shook her hand, noticing it was much warmer now. June, second-year physics. Welcome to Earth. Thank you, she said. Our orientation briefing said that humans value knowledge highly, which is why your species was invited to join the Confederation despite being relatively new to space travel. Well, I don't know about all humans, June said with a laugh, but as a physics student, I definitely do. Nara tilted her head. Your species is interesting. Most intelligent species in the galaxy are specialists, good at one thing. But humans seem to be adaptable to almost anything. We're not very good at freezing solid, June joked. Nara laughed, a sound surprisingly similar to a human laugh. No, but you're good at solving problems quickly. On my world, someone finding a frozen Aelone would have called for medical help and waited. You fixed the problem yourself. June hadn't thought of it that way. Maybe humans did have something special to offer to alien species after all. Ready for your first day of Earth classes tomorrow? He asked. Nara nodded. Yes. Just promise me one thing. What's that? If I freeze again, please don't take pictures. 2 weeks after they started working on the physics problem, Nara received a message on her tablet. Her face turned a lighter shade of blue, which June had learned meant she was nervous. What's wrong? June asked. A high official from my planet is coming to Earth, Nara explained. He wants to check on all Aelone exchange students. His name is Da, and he is very important. When is he coming? Tomorrow, Nara said. He wants to see our room and meet you. June felt nervous too. Should I do anything special to prepare? Just be respectful, Nara said. Da is very traditional. He thinks humans are primitive. The next day, June cleaned their room carefully and made sure the temperature was perfect for Aelone comfort. At exactly noon, there was a knock at the door. Nara opened it to reveal a tall, thin Aelone with dark blue skin. He wore a silver uniform with many small badges on the chest. His face was stern. Official Da, Nara said with a deep bow. Welcome to Earth. Day stepped into the room, his eyes moving quickly to examine everything. Unlike Nara when she first arrived, he did not freeze in the warmer temperature. This is my roommate, June, Nara said. June bowed respectfully. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Day barely looked at him. So this is the living space they provide for our students. It's very basic. It's comfortable, Nara said. June has been very helpful in making me feel welcome. Day walked around the room, touching things with a small frown. I see you have been working on scientific problems, he said, looking at their board of equations. Yes, Nara said. It's a quantum physics problem that Dr. Kim assigned. June has been helping me with a new approach. A human helping an Aelone with physics. Da said with a small laugh. That seems unlikely. June felt his face grow warm, but he stayed quiet. Actually, Nara said firmly, June found a solution path that our traditional methods missed. Impossible, Da said. Human science is centuries behind ours. Different, not behind, Nara corrected. Humans think in ways we don't. Day was about to respond when the room suddenly began to shake. Books fell from shelves, and the lights flickered. What's happening? Dai asked, his voice high with fear. Earthquake, June shouted, recognizing the signs immediately. The shaking grew stronger. Day stood frozen in place, his skin turning dark blue in panic. June acted quickly. Under the desk, he told Nara, pulling her toward safety. He looked at Day, who remained completely still, unable to move in his fear. The ceiling light fixture was swinging dangerously above the alien official. Without hesitation, Jun ran to Dai and pushed him under the other desk, just as the light fixture crashed down where Dai had been standing. The earthquake lasted only 30 seconds, but it felt much longer. When the shaking stopped, the room was a mess, but they were all safe. "Are you both okay?" Jun asked, helping Nara out from under the desk. "I'm fine," Nara said. Day was still frozen with shock, his skin the darkest blue Jun had ever seen. "He's in protective shutdown," Nara explained. "It happens when we experience extreme fear." "What should we do?" Jun asked. "Just wait. He'll recover soon." 5 minutes later, Day's color began to return to normal. He blinked and looked around in confusion. What was that?" he asked. "An earthquake," Jun explained. "They happen sometimes on Earth. The ground shakes because of movement deep inside the planet." "Why didn't you freeze?" Day asked Jun. "Humans don't freeze when we're afraid," Jun said. "We either run or we act." Day stood up slowly, straightening his uniform. "You pushed me out of danger." "Yes," Jun said simply. "Even though I was not polite to you." Jun shrugged. "You were in danger. Nothing else mattered." Day was quiet for a moment. Then he said something in the Aeloni language to Nara. She responded, and they had a short conversation that Jun couldn't understand. Finally, Dai turned to Jun and gave a small bow. "Thank you for protecting me. Perhaps I was wrong about humans." "We're different," Jun said. "Not better or worse, just different." Day nodded. "Nara tells me you have made progress on a difficult physics problem. I would like to see your work, if you are willing to show me." As Jun began to explain their approach to the problem, he noticed that Day was actually listening to him with respect. The earthquake had changed something important between them. 1 month after Day's visit, Dr. Kim made an exciting announcement to the class. "The university will host an interplanetary science competition next week," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Teams from 12 different planets will participate. This is a great honor for our school." The class buzzed with excitement. It was the first time Earth had hosted such an important event. "Each team must have 2 members," Dr. Kim continued. "You will create and present a scientific project that shows new thinking." After class, Jun turned to Nara. "Do you want to enter as a team?" "Yes," Nara said. "Our work on the quantum problem gives us a good start." They registered their team that afternoon. When they saw the list of other teams, Jun felt nervous. There were students from planets he had never heard of, with species names he couldn't pronounce. "Most of these teams have much more advanced technology than Earth does," Jun said. "True," Nara agreed. "But remember what makes humans special. You think differently." As they walked through the university halls, they passed a group of alien students. One of them, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms, pointed at Jun. "Look, it's the human who thinks he can compete," the alien said in accented Korean. "How cute." The aliens laughed. Jun tried to ignore them, but he felt his face grow hot. "That's Zeke," Nara whispered. "He's from Talos, a planet known for advanced physics. His people think they're better than everyone." "Well, we'll just have to prove them wrong," Jun said. For the next 3 days, Jun and Nara worked hard on their project. They built on their solution to Dr. Kim's problem, creating a new approach to quantum field theory. Nara provided the technical knowledge, while Jun added the creative human perspective. The night before the preliminary round, they tested their experiment one last time. "It works perfectly," Nara said, looking at the results on her tablet. "We're ready." The next morning, teams from all 12 planets set up their projects in the university's large science hall. Each team had a small booth to display their work. Jun looked around at the other team's projects. Many had brought advanced technology that looked like magic to him. "Don't be intimidated," Nara said. Our ideas are strong. Zeke and his partner had the booth next to theirs. Their project involved floating balls of light that moved in complex patterns. Good luck, human, Zeke said with a smirk. You'll need it. The judges began to move through the hall, examining each project. There were 5 judges, 2 humans, and 3 aliens from different planets. They'll be at our booth in about an hour, Nora said. Let's do a final check of our equipment. As they prepared, Jun noticed Zeke watching them closely. When Nara went to get a drink, Zeke approached their booth. Impressive work for such a primitive species, he said, looking at their setup. Too bad it won't be enough. He walked away with a strange smile. Jun felt uneasy. When Nara returned, they ran a test of their experiment, but nothing happened. Something's wrong, Nara said, checking the equipment. It was working perfectly earlier. Jun looked inside their main device and found the problem. The quantum resonator is damaged, he said. Someone broke it. They both knew who had done it, but they had no proof. The judges will be here in 20 minutes, Nara said, her skin turning pale blue with worry. Can we fix it? Not with the parts we have, Jun said. We need a new resonator. But we don't have one, Nara said. And the university's lab will take too long to make one. Jun looked around the room, thinking hard. Then he saw something at another booth, a team that had already been judged and was packing up. Wait here, he told Nara. He ran across the hall to a booth where 2 reptilian aliens were putting away their equipment. Excuse me, Jun said. Do you have a spare frequency modulator? Ours broke. The aliens looked surprised but gave him what he asked for. Good luck, one of them said. Jun ran back to their booth. This isn't a quantum resonator, but I think I can make it work. How? Nara asked. They're completely different devices. Trust me, Jun said, already taking apart the modulator. It's another one of those human intuitive leaps. Using parts from their broken resonator and the borrowed modulator, Jun quickly built a strange-looking device. This shouldn't work, Nara said as Jun installed it in their experiment. But it might, Jun said with a smile. And might is all we need right now. The judges arrived at their booth. Jun and Nara explained their theory, and then it was time to demonstrate their experiment. The next morning, Jun woke up to find Nara already awake. She sat at her desk, reading something on a thin, clear tablet that looked much more advanced than Earth technology. Good morning, Jun said, sitting up in bed. Did you sleep okay? Was it warm enough? Nara looked up and smiled. Yes, thank you. Your Earth beds are very soft. On my planet, we sleep on firmer surfaces. I can get you a board to put under your mattress if that would help, Jun offered. That's very kind, Nara said. Humans are more accommodating than I expected. As they walked to class together, Jun noticed other students staring at Nara. Some looked curious, others excited, but a few looked unhappy or even afraid. Don't mind them, Jun told her. Most of them have never seen an alien before. It's the same when humans first visited my planet, Nara said. People are afraid of what's different. Their first class was Advanced Physics with Dr. Kim, a small woman with short gray hair and bright, intelligent eyes. When she saw Nara enter the classroom, Dr. Kim's face lit up. Ah, our exchange student has arrived, she said loudly. Welcome to Earth University. I am Dr. Kim. Thank you, Dr. Kim, Nara said with a small bow, which she had clearly learned was a Korean greeting. I'm happy to be here. Today we will begin our semester project, Dr. Kim announced to the class. You will work in pairs. She looked at Jun and Nara. Mr. Jun, would you mind working with Ms. Nara? I think you could learn much from each other. Jun nodded, happy to be paired with his roommate. As they sat together, a tall student named Han leaned over to them. So, are you going to share some of your alien secrets? He asked Nara in a cold voice. Excuse me? Nara asked, confused. You know, Your advanced alien technology, Han said. That's why you're really here, right? To see how primitive we are. June frowned. Leave her alone, Han. She's just a student like us. Right, Han said with a laugh. A student from a civilization that's thousands of years ahead of us. Actually, Nera said calmly, my civilization is only about 400 years ahead of yours in some areas, and in others, you humans are quite advanced. Like what? Han challenged. Art, Nera said. Music, literature, your ability to imagine what does not exist yet. Many species in the Confederation struggle with this. Dr. Kim clapped her hands. Attention, class. Today we begin with a discussion of quantum field theory. As Dr. Kim spoke, Jun noticed Nera taking notes quickly. She seemed impressed by some of what Dr. Kim was saying. Your professor is very knowledgeable, Nera whispered. Some of her theories are quite advanced. June felt a small burst of pride for earth science. After class, they walked to the cafeteria. Nera looked at all the different foods with interest. What can you eat? June asked. Do you have special dietary needs? I can eat most of your plant foods, Nera said. But animal proteins might make me sick. My species is strictly herbivorous. They sat at a table with their trays. Nara had chosen a salad and rice, while June had a sandwich. There's something I don't understand, June said as they ate. You said humans are good at imagining things. Is that really so special? Nara nodded. Very much so. Most intelligent species are logical but not creative. They can improve on what exists but struggle to imagine new things. Is that why Earth was invited to join the Confederation? June asked. Because we're creative. Partly, Nera said, but also because you are incredibly adaptable. You live in so many different environments. Hot, cold, wet, dry. You eat almost anything. You survive conditions that would kill most species. She took a bite of her salad. And you don't freeze just because a room is a little cold. June laughed. So our messiness is actually our strength. Exactly, Nera said. The Confederation needs new ideas, new approaches. That's why I wanted to come to Earth, to learn how humans think differently. As they left the cafeteria, Han and 3 of his friends blocked their path. Hey alien, one of them said, why don't you go back to your own planet? June stepped in front of Nera. Back off. She's our guest. It's okay, June, Nera said quietly. I've dealt with this before. But June didn't move. No, it's not okay. Not on my campus, not with my roommate. Han looked surprised at June's firm stance. After a moment, he shrugged and walked away, his friends following. Thank you, Nera said when they were gone. That was very human of you. What do you mean? Standing up for someone different, Nera explained. That's something special about your species too.